Hi, everybody. My name is Stefanyk, and I'm founder and CEO of Canopy Studios. I'm really excited to be at CMS Philly. I think we'll just give everybody a few minutes just to get settled and join us, and we'll get going in a few minutes after. I have muted you all, but we will open it up at the end of the presentation here for some chats. I wanted to encourage you, though, as we go through this, to feel free to enter things in the chat box. First off, can everybody hear me okay? Can you folks chat and just let me know that you can hear me? Stan, you can hear me though, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. It looks like we have some attendees in here. Can the other people hear? Let's open up the chat box here. Well, hopefully folks can hear. Okay, we'll give people a second to join here. So Stan can hear me. How about some of the attendees? Can you folks hear? Can you write in the chat box that you can hear me? And I don't know, Stan, if I don't see it because I'm a panelist or if nobody's being, oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, well, it's 2 minutes past the hour, so I was looking at the schedule for CMS Philly, and I realized I'm probably one of the least technical talks that are out there. So I wanted just to thank everybody for joining, and I'm looking forward to chat about this because I know we're in a time of the world right now where making big decisions is kind of on hold at the moment. So we've been working with a lot of our clients to maximize their site, and today I wanted to kind of share some of those things that we do when we work with our clients to extend the life of their site. So let's go ahead and get started. And if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the question and answers. I don't think I can see the chat per se as a panelist. I don't know why, but then we'll open it up for questions at the end as well. So again, my name is Stefanyk. I'm founder and CEO of Canopy Studios. I've been working in the web since 2006. I started working with Drupal just in the very late days of 4.6 into 5, and now I've seen all evolutions. And at Canopy, we take care of the whole life cycle of the website, meaning that half of our business, or about a third of our business, is new builds that are from the ground up, and the other 2/3 is in support, where we really focus on what we call continuous improvement. And we'll talk about that a little bit today. So feel free to connect. This is my LinkedIn QR code. You can take a picture of that and it'll open up LinkedIn for you, and my email, my Twitter, and so forth. So just a real quick overview of who Canopy is and what we do. The main reason people love working with us is that we make websites really easy to understand and effective. And like I said, we take care of that whole life cycle of the website. We are very values driven. So our values shine through our nimble, can-do attitude, our trust in each other, the clarity with which we communicate, and the way each of us works to own it, as we have a culture of accountability. From our community work to our client work to supporting each other, we prove that we are better together. And that leads us to our final value, which is gratitude. We're thankful we get to work with great people, great clients, and create impactful futures for all. So I'm here to help. I've been would love to hear from you. If you're welcome to book a meeting with me, and we can chat about how anything really. Even if we don't work together, I'm always happy to sit down with folks and help offer some free advice to keep their website as healthy as possible. We also have a program right now. If you're on Drupal 7, we know that there's a lot of pressure right now to move into a different CMS. So we have some transition plans that we help folks with. And we also have an adoption program where we're a long-term support partner to help move that forward. Okay, so let's dive into things. The two main philosophies that I want to highlight first is the way that when you're thinking about how to make your website last, I liked these two things in context. So first off, Kaizen, which means continuous improvement. And Kaizen really is referring to those business activities that continuously improve all the functions from all the employees. And this is the way I run my business, and this is the way that we support our client websites. Now, I also want you to take into the other idea of Simon Sinek, wonderful author. He has written a book called The Infinite Game. And I love this. You might have heard of him. And what's fantastic about the way that he thinks about things is the infinite game is really points out that an organization is like a journey. Running an organization is like a journey without a final destination. And that's really how, when we look at our websites, I feel that's very much an infinite game. A finite game is something like chess or football, where the players are known, the rules are fixed, and there's an agreed upon objective. The length of play is finite. So infinite games, on the other side, is the unknown. There can be unknown and known players. There's no exact rules. The length of play is infinite, and really the object of the game is to just stay and keep playing. So again, this is how I run my business, and this is how we work with our clients, is we really treat it like an infinite game. And when I love this, when you embrace an infinite mindset, you will eventually build a stronger, more innovative, and more inspiring solutions with the resilience to thrive in an ever-changing world. So I'm sure that everybody is going to avoid the word pivot from here on out after 2020. But I do think that having an understanding and that you know that you're here for the long term and your website's here for the long term allows you to focus on playing a bigger game. So we call this continuous website improvement. And to make your site last means nurturing and loving it. I always say the first day your website goes live is the first day of your project. That whole project that you did, the whole build project, is actually all planning. And this is, again, why 2/3 of our business are in what I call support. And I say support with air quotes because only 1% of our time is spent doing module updates or plugin updates. The rest of it is actually continuous website improvement. So this is our game. We are better at, we love taking somebody else's code and making it better. The way we do this is through a flywheel model. A flywheel is a concept of where you can get on and you can get going and it'll continue to create momentum, versus a funnel where someone comes in and then gets popped out at the bottom. So we do with all of our clients is we bring them in through 3 different pillars. And when you're looking at your website through the lens, that it's helpful to use this same lens. So first off, strategize. Look at your website, uncover and figure out what's the right plan for success. Implement that solution and then learn and iterate. So we're going to break these down for you folks on how you can apply these into your website. So again, this is taking a very holistic look at things. So you can look at your website through all different lenses. And we believe that there are so many different ways to improve a website that we often have this saying called small bites for big wins, which let's get started, choose one KPI or key performance indicator, and then really make it work. So first off, we have a client join, and what you can do with your website and your is understanding the actual environment, doing a SWOT analysis for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses is the internal look, and the opportunities and threats is the external look. This is very valuable insights. And that really then gets us looking at personas. Who are the people and what do they want to do? We also look at their user journeys. So there's different ways to impact a website. If you can make it easier for people to convert, if you can make it easier for people to understand, it really makes a big difference in terms of how you implement. You may look at a competitor site, competitor analysis. We also want to look at data and analytics. You'll hear me say this over and over again. You really want to measure what matters so that when you're making changes, you know what's working. So being able to measure this is really important. So taking maybe the first look at a strategy around data and analytics is maybe going to be the best place to start. You also want to, when you're looking at any type of strategy, when you're looking at your site, doing an actual site audit, a site checkup, which is probably the only real technical component in here. And we have another presentation that my counterpart Amy June wasn't able to give today, but we've got a webinar of it, and we can send that over to you. But it was checking under the hood, and it's really analyzing kind of the state of the security, performance, accessibility, SEO, code quality, as well as the user experience. Out of this, we always, when we work with strategizing with our clients or with anybody, is to create SMART goals. And we're big fans of choosing something realistic we can all do within a 3-month period. And because we really want to make sure that we make and keep momentum with our clients, it's really important we set goals up front. And while you're working on your website, and if you've got clients or stakeholders, setting upfront goals avoids what we call the swoop and poop, which is a highly technical term for when a stakeholder maybe hasn't been involved, comes in at the last minute and, you know, swoops and poops. So getting them on board with SMART goals that are really helps avoid that. We call these little bite-sized pieces website growth plans. So you know that sometimes when we work with clients, we do an analysis on just their information architecture to look at their navigation. We might look at usability. We might look at design. Accessibility is a hot spot. We always want to make sure that people do well there. Performance, a slow site is really bad. Everybody knows that. And what about your content? Often we do a small bite-sized plan on being able to right-size what kind of content that you need. And you know what, if you're absolutely have this crusty code base, you're stuck on Drupal 7, you want to get off, whatever it is, there's also an opportunity to create a bite-sized strategy around what migration looks like. You may want to come up with a transition plan. You may want to actually go through your entire site and inventory all the things. So know that we do this, and we're always happy to help. Of course, I'm happy to give free advice at any time, so make sure you use that book a meeting. And we are offering 25% off of our growth plans, so feel free to reach out to me if you want to talk about that. We can do something from a design to UX, the Drupal 7 transition plans, and of course, we can do lots around accessibility. Okay, so once we have a strategy, and keeping a site healthy means implementing a stay fresh with strategy every 3 to 6, 12 months. So we sit down with our clients on a quarterly or an annual basis, and we come up with a plan, and then we operationalize or implement that. We organize things in 2-week sprints. And we do this for our entire business, from marketing to sales to everything. It's always organized in the same way. And what we do is we have different philosophies for implementation, like small bites for big wins. It means, like, let's take one thing, let's do it really, really, really well, achieve our goals or not, and learn why, and then move on. Because less is more. We see so many clients spend tons and tons of money on these monolithic builds, and a monolithic build being like a couple of $100,000 project that they spend 6 to 8 months to 10 months building, and then they launch, which we are scared of those because the market moves really fast. That's a lot of money, and we really want to work with clients to deliver value very quickly. So you may have heard this, but there's other folks out there that use this in the web world. It's called minimum lovable product. And I love this because this means essentially minimum viable product, as you may have heard of. Viable sounds so viable. So, you know, changing it to lovable, it doesn't sound such like a dirty word. And really it is what we want to say is what's the least we can get away with that we love the most. And that's a minimum lovable product. And in order to implement these changes skillfully, you've got to be nimble. So remember to implement one thing at a time and really, really measure. Because then you can learn and improve. And each time you learn and improve, this is where you actually get to evolve and work on your website on an iterative, ongoing basis. And just like if you had a house, you know, the life cycle of a website with Canopy is about 10 years. You want to build your site and make it last 10 full years. Most marketers are expecting to rebuild their site every 2 to 3 years. But with a solid code base and with Drupal and WordPress and all the fantastic CMSs out there, there's no reason. If you're in Drupal 7, you can still stretch the end of your life, or you can jump on D8, and with the backwards compatibility for Drupal 9, just like as WordPress always had, we're going to see lots of momentum for sites that should last 10 years, no problem. You don't do anything to it, yeah, you're going to have to touch the whole thing in 2 to 3 years, just like a house, okay? A house life cycle is 100 years old, let's say. and a website is 10 years old, right? If you bought a house and you did absolutely nothing with that house, I can guarantee you the roof would actually be leaking at 100 years, and the foundation might be, weird, and we might have water problems. Like, we could have a whole slew of problems if we did nothing to a house. Just like a website, we want to love and nurture it. And doing things a bit at a time and proactively means that you don't have a bunch of big, wild things that come up and hit you. So when you're learning and improving, I always find the most important thing to start off with all of our clients and our employees and everything, is to start with a win. Let's get our mindset in a frame where we can understand what we did well, so we can be focused on starting a mindset on when we're working on a problem, we're always looking to find the actual solution. And at Canopy, we believe that all of our clients should feel a win and within 45 days of engagement. So we always want to define what that's going to look like, and then we're going to sit down and talk every 30, 60, 90 days. If you're an accounts person, like I was in technology, talking to your clients every 30, 60, 90 days when they first start, and then every quarter, you get a lot of good insights on how to be the best service to your clients. And I can tell you, in a time like this, when the word pivot has become way too often in my vocabulary, having those connections with our clients has allowed a lot of ability to support them in a real-time way. I said this a million times, I'm going to say this again. Measure, measure, measure. Measure weekly, measure monthly, measure rolling, measure what matters. So start with what do we want to do, or what do we want to know, and then measure that. What we found often in helping clients is that often when you start to look at what to measure, you see that the data is really dirty. So that may be the very first strategy project you do, is just setting down the markers and cleaning up the right things to measure. That could be a whole quarter worth of work, and really intentionally seeing if you've got it right and tweaking it along the way. Because once you have that data, you can really speak volumes to other stakeholders like the CFO or the CMO or the CEO, because they don't necessarily talk on the same web lingo that we do, but if you talk to them via goals and numbers and dollars, they usually can get on board, and you can get some of your projects moving. But also encourage, while you're learning and you're helping your website, is to schedule some user testing. This could be with your clients. Like, if you were sitting down, if you're a solopreneur and you've got a client that you're meeting with once a year, ask them how they can do this, and empower them to get some feedback. Whatever you want to do, you can do a little bit or a lot, but know there's tools out there like usertesting.com you can use to find out some good information. And always, always, always remember to create some sprints to actually integrate the feedback. So if you think about a quarter long, we have 12 weeks, we essentially have 6 sprints. We're going to save 1 or 2 of those for actually integrating feedback versus always trying to build something net new. Okay, so this has been kind of the philosophy of, like, how can we take care of the life cycle of our website, and where can we go if we have, start with strategy, go to implementation, and then learn and improve. So more tactically, here are some must-dos that you can take on your website now to improve it. And first off, content. You'll hear me talk about content a lot, because if you can assess, refresh, retire, and redirect content, your site is going to be a lot healthier. So not all content on your site is going to last forever. It's not going to. So you want to take stock of underperforming content and functionality and repurpose it for today's needs. You can then retire, refresh, or archive old pages and sections and redirect old content to keep your link equity well in SEO land. And I gotta tell you, the hardest part for my clients is content. So if you are helping clients and helping them with their content, know that sometimes just like measurement might be one of those first growth plans or those first projects you kind of tackle, content is often usually second behind or not far behind it. And what we love to do is take a full inventory and kind of KonMari the content. She had this love it, live it, like let it go. So when we think about this, there's ways that you can do huge inventories and then start mapping out the user journey of the different personas and see where the gaps are. And that's usually the biggest thing, that there's never too much content usually, or it's usually too much of the wrong thing if there is. It's usually lots of gaps. So before you even focus on a rebuild, before you even focus on a redesign, look at your content, because there's some illuminating things there that you can reorganize, rewrite, refresh, and potentially increase the quality of your website, even if you're going to be rebuilding in 3 months, because you're going to need to look at all that content during that process. So it's a good place to get started on now. Measure what matters. I can't say this enough. There's a really old book called Measure What Matters, OKRs and KPIs and all this stuff, but it's wonderful because really what makes sure, you want to make sure that you are dynamic and you're relevant and you're timely, so you've got to pay attention. You got to talk to your users, analyze your analytics, and make sure you're paying attention to leading indicators. For example, if you drop in your search engine rankings, you have lower conversions, your site is slow, you're going to have some problems. So, you know, measuring where you are, even in just terms of SEO rankings, if you start dropping, then you can start figuring out why you're dropping. Also, I love when I ask my people, when we have more of a live opportunity, is, you know, what's really keeping you up at night with your website? And when I've asked some people before, there's like, am I following a trend that will look dated in a year or two, or am I really truly implementing a refreshing style that will stand the test of time? And I would say don't pay attention much to trends, but definitely pay attention to what the user wants. It is always on trend to have a website that works. And the more you know, the more you can do. So parallax, carousels, infographics, you know, be mindful of the use of those. And do as, if you are a web developer listening to this, please work with us to ban carousels. I know that they're used way too much by clients. Clients are so attached to those things, but we've constantly been helping clients, and sometimes we lose the battle, just like you will, around carousels, but they are very trendy still, I guess, but not necessarily user-focused. I also want to say be accessible. This is not really an option anymore. It's, you really want to be at least A level, if not AA. You don't have to be AAA, but you can't ignore accessibility. And there's so many things a content editor can do, a technologist can do, and it's about paying attention to those details and getting that done. And be serious about security. Again, another thing, when I emailed folks and asked them what keeps you up at night with your website, a lot of people were like, oh, security. And I was like, oh my goodness, that should be like the least of your worries if you're taking it seriously, which means that you're doing your core updates, you know, right as soon as they come out. The security updates are there, do them, don't stop. And another thing you want to do is that sometimes module or plugin updates, they don't need to be done right away, but you want to make sure you take care of them, because you don't want to leave them for too long. So in our support program, we have, depending on the tiers, you're either doing them on a monthly basis, on a bi-weekly or quarterly, whatever makes the most sense for our client's budget, but we never leave them too far behind, and any critical security stuff gets done right away. You also want to work with a reputable hosting provider. So they are often on the security team and will make sure that your infrastructure is well supported if you don't get it right like that. So do make sure that you talk to Acquia, Pantheon, Platform, WP Engine. These folks here are wonderful at being serious about security. Listen to your users. I can't stress this enough. I really want to say that conversations, informal conversations, LinkedIn conversations right now has enabled us to help and move quickly, and also get out in front and forward, get in front of them before they even know what to do, because we've had some other clients, you know, we've worked with them and we're able to solution with other clients. So really, you know, talk to your people, talk to your audiences, and get that data so that you can really validate your work. Because your website is more vital than ever, and having a bad site is not an option anymore. So let's talk about this in terms of how do you know when it's like, how do you know what to change? So you're like, oh goodness, I could do all this. I could do accessibility, I could do performance, I could do this, I could do that. Well, there's a couple of ways that you can take a look at it. So these are some signals on when it's time to do something with your site. So first off, has your organization evolved? Like, think about it. And that's where one of those SWOT analysis becomes really helpful, because you can start to see the strengths and weaknesses of your internal stuff and the opportunities and threats from the external world. For example, the threats from the external world have been very intense lately, right? And the opportunities as well, right? So think about it. Like, is there new services you're offering, new products, new strategy, new markets you're going after? That is a signal that your website needs to be updated. Another signal is your industry. I mean, if you're in higher education, well, if you're in education at all right now, the whole learning economy is in this transformation of how do we pivot, and how do we, there's that word, how do we, like, this is going to blow up in a good way. You know, I think that this is going to revolutionize the way we teach and learn and create a more accessible world. But that means our industries are evolving. It's a big signal. We got to pay attention to our website. Another signal is if you test it, they can't find what they're looking for. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and we have this blinder on because of our organizational context of being too close to it. So, you know, doing some basic user testing will often illuminate. And knowing that maybe their needs have changed. Maybe you have a brand new set of users. I mean, if you think about it, like, think of Zoom and how much they have had to scale so quickly, as well as they've had to serve new audiences. Like, how fun has it been watching, like, our parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles and stuff get on Zoom? Like, it's been freaking hilarious at some points, right? Like, they just are so awesome. I love my family that are older that are getting on Zoom, and I love that they just really are sending me videos on how, you know, it's hilarious. But Zoom essentially had to move within a couple of hours, really. So think about your website. How have your needs, how's your audience's needs changed? In so many ways, this pandemic is putting a spotlight on your website too. So, content. I mean, is it being presented effectively? Is your content getting stale? What's your content strategy like? I could spend a whole session on content because it's such a rich area that you can create some mega impact. Conversion rates. Again, if you aren't measuring and you don't know, then you're kind of in the dark, so you don't know what to change. So, but if your conversion rates are declining, this is a big signal that you have to do something with your website. So if you don't know what that looks like, it might be, again, setting up to figure out how to measure that. And search engine rankings. So again, we talked about this a little earlier, but if you don't take care of your website, there's been a couple of changes to Google's algorithms, which would then knock you off of page 1, page 2, wherever you were to wherever you are, or whatever. The point is that Google's algorithms are sophisticated and change quickly, so you want to be up and up on this. And you also want to take a look at your competitors, right? Have they changed their approach? What are they doing, right? You want to make sure that you're not only ahead of the pack, but you're also aware of what the folks in your neighborhood are up to. And I can't express enough how important speed is. It's strange how many marketers would rather put in 17 different tracking tools so they can figure out their audience, and it's just killing their performance. Yet they want to have all these integrations. So it's a real balance because performance matters. It's a well-known fact. I think it's that 53% of visitors will abandon your website if it takes more than 3 seconds to load, and 75% won't come back if it's more than 4 seconds. So people, help your marketers, help them figure out what data they need to analyze, and then take off as much as they can and just have the site go fast. Use different, talk to your teams about which ways you could do performance enhancements. And again, does your site overuse those design trends? So do you have a carousel, or do you have a lot of carousels, or do you have hero images everywhere that take up the whole top level? Let's treat those as fads and make sure that the content, usability, design, and the technical pieces all work. Because in the end, it's always fashionable to have a website that works. And you really want to also understand mobile. Like, when you look at your phone on mobile, or when you look at your website on mobile, does it actually look good? Does it work? Does it function? You know, the interesting thing is that a lot of our clients sometimes will come in, especially our B2B software as a service kind of clients will come and be like, oh, we need to have a mobile first site. Oh, it needs to look great on mobile. Oh, we need mobile. And then we'll actually do research, and most of their audience is actually desktop, big, huge screens, desktop. And there's lots of real estate to play with when we have that versus a phone. And some clients are just convinced that because they've heard mobile first, mobile first, mobile first, they need to just make sure they have this amazing mobile experience. And don't get me wrong, many websites, all websites need to have a mobile first, amazing experience. But the point is, it's about understanding your audience, your needs, your content, and what's going to work best. So know that lots is possible too. You don't just want to stack your mobile experience and all. You want to make sure that you work through it and from a content strategy. And people, this is 2020. You should expect a lot from your content management system. It should be fast, it should be easy, and it should be free. Yay, open source. So you really need to have a website that you can edit. And if you can't edit your website, or your content managers can't edit your website, that's a signal that it's time to fix something. And I've had a client come to me being like, oh, I have $100,000, and she had this big site, and she said, I got to tear it down. I just hate Drupal. I'm going to go to WordPress. And this was, 3 years ago, and she was on Drupal 7, and I looked at her site, and the team looked at the site, and we were like, we're not convinced that this is a tear down. I mean, we can definitely tear it down for you. But the complexity of her site, we knew that 100K would essentially be rebuilding what she had. So we said, can we do one of those growth plans? Can we do a performance growth plan and just like look at the performance of your site? And so in that we did an analysis, 20 hours, and we found out that she just had a janky contributed theme. Okay. So every time when our client, Sarah, I'll give her name, she would go in and edit the site would actually turn into a white screen of death. There would be gremlins that would pop up, and it was that theme. It was that janky contributed D7 theme. And so we came in and with about a quarter of that money was able to pull out the theme, redesign the homepage and some priority pages, and implement a lot of new performance elements, move them onto a reputable host. And 25K into the budget, we had fixed the site. Okay, she used the next $75,000 to add multilingual, product stuff, partner stuff. The site has been amazing. And now that we're in line to do a Drupal 8, Drupal 9 rebuild, everybody's very invested in the success of the website because it's been such a success. They're a little hesitant because they're just like, why? 7's working so well. But eventually they will have to move on to that, but we've been able to kind of come up with a game plan, and we put that into the 3-year plan. And as their partner, we've come up with like making what they have right now work, and then make sure we have a plan for the future. So your site could be easy to edit. If it's not necessarily a teardown. So here's some small bites, some incremental things that you can do now. So first off, navigation. You can make your site so much better just by removing the links that people click on least, really focusing on those pathways. Another way you can just do it is simply tweak the color palette, and really just tweak the CSS. If you run your site through an accessibility checker and you realize that your color contrast is wrong, change it. Right? Content. Shocker, adding images, videos, GIFs, whatever you want to do. Let's get it happening. Let's get it fresh. Or do some focused design work. You can really make a lot of change on just reimagining the homepage, or if you have a key page that you're driving a lot of people to via a campaign, focusing on that. So I'm just going to quickly focus on some real-world examples of what we've done before, and then we'll break for some questions. So Ludwig von Mises, they're a school of Austrian economics and libertarians, and what we did is we built this site in 2012, and we have launched since then, and the site is coming up now. It's now 8 years old, and originally what we did is, and you can click on these later, but originally what we did is we migrated 450,000 pieces of unique content. If you know Nick Lewis, he used to be on my team. He lives in Philly. And he helped me with this massive project as one of our first at Canopy. And with that, we had an incredible increase in newsletter subscriptions, like an astronomical increase. And year over year, we do about 207-ish% increase on subscriptions, and that's their KPI. Another folk over here is the Learning Center for Networks in Transition, for Countries in Transition. And with these folks, we did minimize to maximize. We launched something small, then we learned, and we then iterated. So what we did is once we launched, we refreshed the homepage and we were able to increase new site users by 252%. And we had 177% increase in forum engagements for some of the micro changes we made to interactions in the forums. So little things like that made a huge difference to the organization, which then ultimately fulfilled their mission. Another one is CRDF Global. This is they came to me and said, we want a Drupal 8 site, and they had a Drupal 7 site, and they said, we have $25,000. I said, oh my goodness, you want to do all this good, creative, strategic work? Why don't we do that first? Level up your D7 site, and then let's move into D8 in a later time. We can actually do some proper fundraising, get you the right budget, etc. Stakeholders bought in. We did this huge brand refresh, and out of that, we've had 192% increase on those key capability pages. And it was literally like, just going back for a second, it was literally like giving them the space to be able to create and, oh, I thought I turned off all my notifications, pardon me. All the notifications coming through all the devices. Anywho, so this is fun stuff. We love doing this stuff. This is just part of my team. There's about 44 of us now. Again, you can connect with me here on LinkedIn or book a meeting with me if you want to chat about how we can help extend the life of your website, or if you wanted any tools or tips. I did want to quickly pull in, you folks may know some of these things, but there are tools out there that you can use. Let me see if I can share. Okay, here. This should switch to another page, right on. So I'll post these links with this, but this is just some basic URLs here that you can choose and work through to take a look at your site. You probably all know this because I think our audience is a little nerdier, and that's totally cool because I love that. Knowing that I'm probably the least technical presentation out there, but this stuff's really important because it could be your tech stack could be amazing and your content doesn't work and then your site doesn't work. Page speed, great place to go and just be able to get a quick down and dirty of what's wrong with your site. Other ones is you've got, Google recently put Lighthouse into a tool here, which is you can also use the plugins. So there's an accessibility Lighthouse that generates and it runs against performance accessibility best practices in SEO. And then we also have the Site Improve Accessibility Checker, which is a Chrome plugin. So that's really helpful too. So you can go to a site and essentially click on the accessibility one, and it's going to, it's going to tell me to do all these things right now. So we also have, this is a Wave. This is an accessibility checker. So this is an evaluation tool that you can use. There's also a contrast checker that you can use, and it can just simply give you some basics that you want to get down and dirty with and fix on your site. And this is one that we use from a design standpoint, which we really like, which is essentially looking for kind of cleanliness in our style sheets and performance and so forth. So I thought this was a really cool tool that we can use. Yes. Okay, so let's just all jump back to here so y'all can see the QR code and that kind of stuff. But I wanted to just stop and see if there's any questions. Stan, I don't know if you wanted to unmute all the people, if they wanted to say hi, if there's any live Q&A. And I think, I don't know, I think we unmuted you. Can you?
We got unmuted, yes.
It's so weird to talking to like the void. It's like, hello, hello, hello. I'm probably the least technical. Oh, good, yay, I helped someone. You know, it's funny because I love Drupal and WordPress so much, and I love Backdrop and Craft and all those too, of course. But we do a lot of Drupal and WordPress, and I'm very technical, but I can't code. And that's part of, working and running a technical agency. I have a wonderful, smart crew of folks that help. But often it's just getting down to like the human to human stuff, right? I mean, in the end, it's one of those things where getting a full picture of how everything goes allows you to really be successful, and you've got to be technical. Even if you're
Oh, I'm sorry. I need to tell you that there's like 9 minutes left.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Fantastic. So how's everybody been enjoying the conference so far? Have you been to lots of sessions, or, I mean, there's been one session so far, right? I'm on the West Coast, so I was like, I'm doing a 7 a.m. meeting, and that's good for me. I'll go to the next session. So. Well, fantastic, everybody. We can call it there, and what you can do is you can always just reach out if you have any questions. LinkedIn me. I'm always happy to help. I've been working in Drupal for a long time, and the community is really the best part of my job. I mean, I love my job too, but it really what helped me fuel in the right direction. So if anything I can do to help create clarity or get you in touch with the right person, you can, I'd be happy to help. So, okay, thanks, Stan, for all your help.
Wait a second. Someone has a question for you.
Oh, we do. Yes. Okay,
yeah,
great.
they're asking. Can you see it?
Accessibility. Yes.
And one person's asking for the links that you shared. Do you want to just put in the Slack to make it easier for them?
Yeah, I'll put them all in Slack right after this for sure.
I will share the Slack with people who don't have it.
Okay, rad. I'll do that right
now. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so my question is regarding Drupal 7, Drupal 8, and Backdrop. What are your thoughts there in terms of underpinnings for long-term accessibility of the site, or long-term maintenance of the site?
Yeah, so I'm excited about all three. I believe that it is very much sometimes a choice that's a bit out of our, like the most desired choice is often to be in the latest software, and sometimes that's just challenged by budget or stakeholders and so forth. So I really love WordPress because it's always been backwards compatible, and it's always had a long kind of shelf life. And I've been very excited about some of the stuff with Gutenberg and kind of the flexibility for the end content editor. So WordPress is kind of a solid platform. Drupal 7, Drupal 8, Drupal 9, I've seen so many different version upgrades that I'm not necessarily like super anxious for the change, but I am wanting to make sure that people feel like they can make the change in the right manner. So if the client or whoever's on Drupal 7, there's many paths to go. 1, go to Backdrop. 2, go to WordPress. 3, stay at Drupal 7 for a little longer and really make sure that you have a financial plan to get to 8 or 9, well, that time 9, or then migrate to 8 and then just be prepared to move to 9 right away. So it's such an individual situation for all of our, for each person. I know that some of our clients, as soon as they heard Drupal 7 was end of life, it was like, let's get on the Drupal 8, let's get it done, let's get it done. And other clients are like, oh my goodness, why do I even care? Do I have to spend that money? What am I going to do? So, but for the long term, I mean, I think Jen and Nate are doing a great job with Backdrop, and they've got some momentum, and really stoked to see where they're going with that. And then I think Drupal is going to continue to pave the path towards really custom enterprise, bigger sites, because they're so flexible.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, with our support department, we have like over 160 domains that we support, 170 domains, I think, right now that we support. And almost like 100 of them are Drupal 7. So we've had a lot of conversations with a lot of our clients, and a lot of them are like, can we just stay for a bit? And through this whole COVID stuff, we just kind of said, hey, we're going to work with our partners that are long-term support providers and just be there for our clients. And then we can make a pragmatic choice.
If you can input in the Slack suggestions on Drupal 7 long-term supporters, long-term, the kind of consultants who would cover a shortfall after November 2021, that'd be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Yeah, and those that are actual Drupal 7 long-term support providers, they need to be on the Drupal security team. So like Acquia, Pantheon, Platform, all of them have folks that are on the security team. So those hosting providers will be providing long-term 7 support. So if you can get hosted on one of those providers, then you're usually pretty well covered. Or, you know, I know, for example, Peg One and I'm going to call him the wizard, but it's not right. Drupal wizard, no, something wizard. He's going to kill me. But either way.
I know you're talking about. I know the guy.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name, but I know you're talking about.
Long-term support providers, and they're part of the security team. So, but it's like one of those things. Like I mean, we have one lonely little Drupal 6 site that our client just so like stuck in molasses with moving. So it's hard for them to even conceptualize because they just don't quite get why they have to do it. So now that the code is actually like really breaking in Drupal 6, like now they're getting it, but it's taken forever for them to get it. Everybody else has moved off of 6. So, but whatever's the least stressful, I find that, you know, often with big migrations, it's kind of like garbage in, garbage out. So we really want to work with our clients to like call back what they don't need, drop it off the site now, do the redirects, clean it all up so that when the actual migration, it's tidy.
Wait, she's. I thought she's not in San Francisco.
Well, this has been fantastic. I'll drop these links into the Slack chat. And then I hope to see you all at happy hour, and then we can all hang out and chat. And I hope that everybody enjoys CMS Philly. I'm super stoked for being able to attend and present because I'm in San Francisco and I love Philly. I actually saw Miley Cyrus there live in a very small, intimate venue, and I really loved it. It was so fun. And I think we were there for WordCamp US a couple of years ago, and that was super fun. So I wish I was there in person because I love to travel and I love Philly so much. I've got lots of friends and there's lots of goodness there. So I hope everybody has a wonderful day and we'll see you very soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.